Okay, yes, Avatar is
Or
indeed.
Salman's abs, yeah.
Okay. So yes, guys. So cinematography essentially is you can say all the camera manipulation and scene manipulation comes under cinematography. So not just the camera work, which is obviously a big part, the scenes you take, the angles you take, how the b-rolls are taken, how the camera moves and everything, but also the manipulation of the camera and the scenes on in the post prod and everything comes under cinematography, how it looks. Okay, so today we are going to talk about the scene management and how to work with CGI and everything. So who's excited? Guys, excited?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna hand over the mic to Maharishi. He'll be guiding you through the basics first. Maharishi?
Yes. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you
Yeah.
are.
Okay. So, hello everyone. Uh, I hope everyone is doing well. Uh, so, first things first, I'm not here to teach you VFX or anything. It's not just about the time. I'm not qualified enough to be your quote unquote teacher or anything. But what I do have is experience. I've been freelancing for almost a year now. So I hope I can help you with something. So we're just going to have a conversation here, okay? Imagine like we're in a cafe or something, and you guys just want to know what the hell I do. Uh, I mean, if there's specifically you want to do something, then the internet is obviously your friend. You can search on YouTube or Google. The solutions are like unlimited solutions to a single problem. Now, so where do I come in all of this? What's my role? Why are you in the workshop? Well, I'm going to just compile everything I've learned, or I'll just compile every tips and tricks I've learned from the internet and just give it to you. Now, we are obviously big cinema fans here, and I'm going to help you understand how VFX ties with cinema. I'm mostly going to talk about the Blender and After Effects workflow since that's what I am used to. But once you learn any of the 3D softwares now out there, you will understand that almost all of them work the same way. So is there anyone here who knows about Blender or even After Effects? Uh, is there? Hello?
I do have the Blender software, but never got around using it.
Yeah, that happens, I guess. Like you haven't opened it yet or what?
No, I have opened it, made a pillar, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. When Blender is like, it's an open source platform, so most of them are not user friendly. Like Blender is now very user friendly than it was before. But whatever. There is also Maya, then AutoCAD, Cinema 4D. You have probably heard about Houdini too. So mostly the water CGIs and stuff, the smoke simulations and stuff, you see, they're mostly done in Houdini. Even the like big filmmakers use Houdini nowadays. And surprisingly, even the game engine Unreal is trying to get into the film industry. You guys have probably heard about The Mandalorian. It was shot with an Unreal engine. So the hyper realistic environments were created on Unreal.
Yeah, and in
Uh,
that also I heard that no green screen was used, right?
Yeah, yeah. There were
Yeah.
no green scene. So, like the light bounces perfectly. Everything is perfect. Here is just a 360-degree screen, and they load the imagery on the screen and they shoot the shot. But since there are no green screen, like the lighting is perfect. You don't have to worry about the lighting and stuff. So it's like the cutting edge technology now in the VFX department of the film industry. So then uh, so, like I said, the technology has advanced so much that people are trying to build a CGI wall rather than an actual wall. So, yeah, anyway, I don't want to bore you to death talking or anything. I'm just going to show you some stuff, and I'll share my screen now. Is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
Maharishi.
Yes.
yeah, let's talk about, since we are here for cinema, right? So let's talk about cinematic renders. The renders are basically the outputs we get from like the 3D softwares or whatever. So how to make them cinematic? So when we say cinematic, the word cinematic obviously comes from cinema, right? So that means if the shot has to be a cinematic shot, then it has to tell a story. So it's important to have a story in your renders. So I'm just going to show you some renders I have made. So this was a render I made in Blender, of course. So it's just a guy walking from office, or probably he has a suitcase on his hand and he's lighting a cigarette there, and it's probably the night time. And you see these walls right in the left and right. So it's basically to point our eyes towards the character, which is the guy here, and it's a starry night, obviously. And then, so what happened here is that for the shot, I didn't add anything in the left. It was just darkness here. So then later I added a Japanese house and some lights, and it just doesn't look bland here. So that's my point. Like, you have to tell a story with your render. You can just add anything and then it can look good, but it won't tell a story. So it doesn't make it a cinematic render. And then here's something I made. This was also something I made on Blender. So you see, like, I'm not going to show you how to be creative. I can't teach you that. Nobody can. So you have to be creative on your own. But I can show you like how to use the software and how to get familiar with it. That's what I'm gonna do today. So I'm just gonna show you some renders and stuff. So that's the first thing, right? Cinematic renders, the story. Then the next thing that comes is the aspect ratio. I'm going to show you some examples that what filmmakers do with the aspect ratio. So this was a movie called The Waves. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not. Hey, and by the way, if you guys have anything to say, you can just unmute and say. It's no problem.
This Waves movie, it has that famous beach shot, right?
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is, yeah, I'm planning to watch it. I have
Yeah.
heard it's really, really good. So
Yeah. So what the director did in this movie is that every time the character gets tensed, right? So he changes the aspect ratio of the movie. Here you can see there are no blackbirds at the top or the bottom. Then the blackbirds comes closer to the middle as the character gets tensed and tensed. You can see here. So that's what
I think
the aspect ratio does. Yeah.
I think same thing Christopher Nolan does in his movie.
Which
If you
one?
have seen The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan,
In the Dark Knight. I don't
in every
remember.
movie of his.
I don't really remember. Can you which
can
scene?
you give us a scene? I
Yeah,
have seen it, but I can't relate.
Yeah, I have watched it, but I
uh,
can't remember.
The Dark Knight, the starting when the heist happens, it's on the full screen. When the Joker comes, it
Oh, yeah,
उसके
yeah, yeah.
सामने
When he
ले जाते हैं
introduces
तो
himself, you're talking about that, right? When he
yes,
says
yes, yes.
something, when he goes like, when he's talking to
Uh,
that bank manager or something, right? Yeah.
uh, the dialogue is, I think, whatever doesn't kill you make you strong.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks for the insight.
That scene.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was more of a close-up shot. It wasn't done to make the things tense as you see in that the Waves movie. It's done so as to show the character in a tense moment. But
Yeah.
for that, in that scene, it was just to show the Joker properly. It was about his character reveal at that time.
Okay. So
I mean,
yeah.
the purpose
I
was
mean,
different.
yeah. It's something to play with.
Yes.
Aspect ratio is something to play with, and the directors do it. So as you watch the movie, I'm not going to spoil it for you. As you watch the movie, the aspect ratio gets tighter and tighter, and at the end, it just becomes a square. And then gradually, it becomes normal again. So here Jack Snyder used in his Snyder cut, he used the square aspect ratio, not exactly square. It is, I guess, 1:1.12. So it's just about, it's like creative choice by the director to use this aspect ratio. I don't know if you guys have watched Grand Budapest Hotel. There,
Uh,
Yes, of course.
I
there's
think
Yes,
I
and
think I think
yeah,
Zack Snyder used the square ratio for the Snyder's cut for like he told it was specifically made for IMAX theaters. That is why
okay.
he did that.
Okay. What actually does is that if you make the aspect ratio square, right? So there's less screen real estate and there's less render time for the scenes to render. So like Warner Bros wasn't having it that they will not let Snyder release the Snyder cut. Then to minimize the cost of the renders and minimize the cost of the production. So that's one of the reasons too. But I don't know if how far that's true. But one of the reasons, I guess I heard that it's one of the reasons to cut the production cost. Anyway, so in Grand Budapest Hotel, Wes Anderson does this, does the aspect ratio thing to tell a story. Like when he's reciting, it's about when he goes to the flashbacks, the aspect ratios are in square, and when the present timeline is playing, then the aspect ratio in is the normal one. It is it's I guess 2.39 is to 1. Like the width is 2.39 times the height. So even Wes
yeah, so
Anderson does
basically when
this.
the story is being narrated in the movie, then the aspect ratio is, a bit shorter. That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what you're trying to say, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, the aspect ratio is something to play with. So first I talked about the story in a cinematic render and then the aspect ratio. Then the next thing comes is the composition. Like it's one of the most important things in a shot. For example, you can see in Blade Runner, I have a lot of Blade Runner stuff. So I don't know if you guys have watched Blade Runner. Have you guys watched Blade Runner?
I mean, I've heard of that movie that has
No,
it
but
has
I'm
some
gonna
really
watch it
beautiful
today.
visuals and all. So
Yeah,
I'm
Blade
planning to
Runner.
watch it. It's on Netflix, by the way, so guys, you can watch it.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
beautiful movie. So what Blade Runner did is, wait, I can't spoil it for you, but what Blade Runner did is, for the most part of the movie, the main character is not in focus. Here you can see that there's a lot of screen real estate. Here it's just the main character is occupying just a part of the shot, and there is a lot of environment here. I can show you more. So this is this is one here. So you can see that most of the screen, he isn't even occupying most of the screen. So that's insinuating something, but I'm not going to tell you now. It's going to spoil the movie for you. But anyways, so I don't know if you guys have watched Mr. Robot. There to say
Of
he
course.
yeah, in Mr. Robot, you can see like there are hundreds of shots like this in Mr. Robot. It's just to insinuate that the people, they're not more important than the society. The society is more important here. So
And Maharishi, may I add something?
yeah.
Yeah. So if you see the main character, Elliot, he's a very paranoid character actually, So this type of framing really helps in telling about the character itself. He's always just shown in these type of frames only, because he always feels very very paranoid and insecure about himself in different situations. So this type of framing helps a lot in that. I mean,
Yeah,
if
of course.
yeah, you guys need to watch this series. But
Yeah, the director Sam Ismail, he told in an interview, I guess, he said that the characters in the series are not important, not that important, but the story is more important. So the story is about the society, like the modern day society. Obviously, he made it dramatic a bit, but at the end, at the core, it's our society. He's just telling a story about the society. So that's Mr. Robot for you. And then, so we have nailed the story and then the aspect ratio, then the composition, now the lighting. So lighting is when then it's extremely important to smartly light your scenes. You can't just directly shower your subject with light. It has to be subtle and natural. Uh, and by natural, I mean it has to be gradual. The highlights shouldn't be bright and the shadows shouldn't be pitch black. So I'm going to show you a Blade Runner shot here. You'll see in most movies what they do is if there is a bright background, they will lit the character very dim. You can see here the character is very dimly lit. Then here too, he just has a subtle light here in the front, and then the back of his head is purely dark, and then you can see the background is light here. And then again, shots like this, the lighting. And you can take any shot here. For example, you can take this shot even.
This is actually a very important scene in the Mr. Robot, actually, So this kind of lighting also helps a lot.
Yeah.
If you remember. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, wait, I'm searching.
I'm not giving away any spoilers, but this is a very crucial scene.
So this is the Last Jedi, the scene from the Last Jedi. The lighting here is very important because you can see Rey comes into this hall or something, and then she grabs the crystal here. So why the lighting here is important? Because Rey comes from the left. Like they could have done any lighting, of course, but here it tells a story. From the left, it's a bright light, and then on the right, it's pitch black. So it's basically saying that Rey is coming from the light and then going to the dark towards the right. Because later in the movie, we see that we see the darker side of Rey. So that's the thing too. So you can tell a story through lighting too. So lighting is important. And then it comes to coloring your shot. Like color gives a contrast between the subject and the background, so that when you see a scene, your eyes instantly know where to focus on. Here's a color. The hair color, you obviously know this is Aquaman, so the color grading here is probably green and bluish. And then there's a then here's one color example for you. So then again, here's a perfect example of coloring here. So in this movie, this is called Drive. In this movie, whenever Ryan is with the female character in the movie, the color is warm. So the color is mostly warm. You can see here, the colors are mostly warm. But whenever he's not with her, the colors are mostly green, or it's more depressing. But when he's with the girl and the boy, the colors are more warm and
So
more
the
welcoming.
colors are basically defining his mood at that moment, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Maharishi, may I add? Yeah, sure. Sorry.
This is a very beautiful shot from the movie. Yeah, go on.
You please complete.
No, I'm done. You go.
Okay. I was just saying, has anyone seen The Godfather here? Anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I have downloaded, but
okay. So when the character Michael Corleone is introduced,
Yes. I've seen it.
Sorry, Adidev, you were saying something.
No.
Okay, may I continue? Yes. So when the Michael Corleone is first introduced, he's whenever you look at his frames, then he's always lit in bright colors and all. Like it's basically yellow. But as soon as his character starts progressing and his arc starts getting defined, he gets into darker colors, and it's and the facial expressions of Al Pacino are just they look deadly, and he starts becoming as more ruthless as he becomes, the more darker his character and the way it's presented on the screen it gets. You have to just see it to trying to understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We understand.
Cool.
So the color is done, and then what cinematographers like what filmmakers do then is add like a volume fog or a bokeh to their scenes to like give depth to the shot. So there are two types of bokeh. They use spherical bokeh or anamorphic bokeh. Here are some spherical bokehs you can see here. Then these are anamorphic bokehs. You see they're kind of stretched. So this kind of bokehs are more expensive to make because the camera lenses are more expensive. But it just depends on how the director wants to take the shot. So that's all. So the first thing is that build a story and then composite the scene, then light your scene correctly, then give a nice color to the scene. So there should be a nice color palette. Here is a shot from the movie Her. So you can see the colors are bright and warm, but the movie isn't actually that warm. So that's like a contrast between the actual story that is going on in the color palette, color theme of the movie. So that's color for you. And then there's the fog or bokeh or whatever you want to give to the shot to differentiate the background and the main character. Then after all of this, the little thing, the main thing, not the main thing, but it's a little thing, it's a subtle thing, is the grain, the film grain. So what happens is that your everything, you have set everything up for your cinematic render, and it's like the last cherry on top. Like for example, here you can see that there's a bit of film grain in the scene. What happens is that when you render something right, it looks perfect. It's look way too good, and like when something is too perfect, it looks unnatural. So what they do is they add film grain here, like a little bit of film grain, not too much, just a subtle hint of green, to replicate the cameras which were used in the old days. So the old day cameras used to have some film grain, right? So to continue that trend, I guess, so they use a bit of film grain in their movies to give that natural look, the dark and harsh look. So that's just what I was going to talk about, like setting up a scene when you're rendering, and so that's it, I guess. Do you guys have any questions? If not, I'm just gonna continue to Blender, I guess. Do you guys have any questions?
Maharishi?
Any questions
Yeah, I
about
have
Blender? You can ask me any questions about Blender too. Yeah, go on.
no, I have a question about the film contrast. You said about the film contrast, it actually defines the moment, right? Like if it's a little darker, then it would
Not necessarily. Like it depends on
it's
the.
going in a very good way.
Sorry, I can't properly hear you.
Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry. Uh, I'm audible to everyone.
Yes, yes.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Okay. Okay. I wanted to say that there are certain positions, there are certain moments in movies, right, where one scene is shown as colorful and the other is shown as
Adidev, we
Aditya,
can't hear you actually.
Adidev, you're
please check your internet once. I
Yeah.
think your network is lagging.
कोई नहीं. I will ask later on.
You
I'll
can
ask
put it
later
in the
on.
chat box.
yeah. You
Yeah, you
can
can
type
use the
in.
chat box if you want.
One second, guys. I think there are some newer members here. If you can't see the chat option, just kindly use the team code in the WhatsApp group's description. Join the team, and you'll see the chat option.
If anyone doesn't have any other questions, then we can move on to Blender, I think.
Darker contrast tone sets the film to have a darker side. Yeah, but not necessarily. Like it depends on how the filmmaker wants to portray the story, right? So, like a dark side, like a darker contrast can be because like he wants to focus on the character more. It doesn't necessarily mean that the character is on the darker side or whatever. Because if you're lighting something, there is going to be shadows, so you can't just eliminate shadows. I hope that clears it.
Yeah. Maharishi, may I add something again to Adidev's point?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so as Adidev is saying that darker contrast tone sets the film to have a darker side, then earlier Maharishi showed an example of a film called Her, right? In that the whole color palette of the film is like very, it's like this only. It has some really light colors and all, but it's a very this guy's Joaquin Phoenix,
He's
his life is
lonely and
very
depressed.
depressing. Yeah, I
So
mean actually, yeah.
Go on.
No, Maharishi, please continue.
Yeah, so a little trivia for you all. The director of this movie is actually the ex-husband of Francis Coppola's daughter. And she made the movie like after the divorce.
Lost in Translation.
Yeah, she made the movie Lost in Translation. So as a reply for Lost in Translation, he made Her. So it's like a little trivia. You can watch both the movies. They're actually pretty fun. So let's start Blender, I guess. I'll just give you some basic ideas about Blender, how the software works and how to move around stuff. And if you have any specific like problems, or if there's specifically you want to do something, you can just Google or YouTube it, and there are like numerous tutorials. So I'm just gonna show you how to use Blender. To download Blender, you can just search Blender. You can just search Blender, the first link that comes up. You can download Blender from here. This is the stable build 2.935. You can download it. It's completely free. So the first time you open Blender, this is going to come up. There won't be any recent files. This is just going to be like this. So you can just tap here, and then this is the user interface. You can click on the middle mouse button and then move around. And this is the cube, so you can scroll the mouse wheel to zoom in and zoom out. And this is the left click, the normal left click to select stuff, and then right click to get the menu for
stopping you right there, Maharishi.
Yeah.
In case you guys are downloading this on your laptops, just keep your specs, just check your specs once so it supports you, it doesn't lag out. Also for the middle mouse button, you can use the touch controls on the touchpad to control that way.
Yeah, also you can just come here and then edit preferences, then here the key mapping options. You can key map different things. If you don't like certain thing, then you can just key map to any other buttons. So this is the main layout, and then there's going to be like we call this meshes. We call them mesh. So you can you can press G to grab them, then G, and then if you type the specific axis, for example, I'm pressing X here, so I can move the cube in the x-axis, and if I press Y, then I can move it in the y-axis, then Z to Z, move it in the z-axis. Then you can R for rotate, and similarly just type the axis again, rotate alongside that axis, then S to scale. Now to actually do something to the objects, you have to press tab. Then in tab, it's edit mode, so you can edit it here. You can edit the object here. So what I'm going to do here is that just select the face. Here 3 buttons here. So what these does is, this is the vertex mode. So basically what it does is you can select each and every point of an object from here. But if you go to edge select, then you can select an edge. Then this is the face select. So you can select a face. But if you want to select multiple faces at the same time, then you can just hold shift and then click, then you can select multiple faces. So that's it in the edit mode. No, actually no. Then there are multiple tools here you can use. So, but I would suggest just learn the shortcuts for everything. It will be much easier to use. So that's the edit mode for you. Here is the here is the axis for you. If you want to view from it in certain angle, then just press X. This is the axis. Press X again, then this from behind. Y-axis, Z-axis. You must be thinking, what are these? This is just the X-ray mode, and these are different modes. This is for the render view. Then, so what I'm going to do is just grab here, press Z, and you can make a pillar or whatever. Someone said that someone is trying to make a pillar, so that's it. That's how you make a pillar. Then, for example, you move it here, and then you don't want it to be there and just come back to its default position. Then you can just press Alt and then G. So to undo something, for undoing something, you press Control Z. But if you, for example, you scale the object and then you want it to come to its default scaling position, so you can press Alt and S. So just press Alt and then the specific button, it will come to its default state. Like for example, if I rotate it and then press Alt R, then it is going to come in its default rotation. So that's it. Then this is the layout. So here you can model in the modeling. You can model. It's basically the modeling panel is basically the tab I showed you. Like you can press tab and come into edit mode. So that's the modeling panel. Then in sculpting, you can sculpt. You can actually create. You can sculpt here. For sculpting, I would suggest that you get a pen or something because it's really difficult to do it with a mouse. So get a pen. Yeah, here are different tools to sculpt. Then here's UV editing. So what UV editing does is, for example, I have a rectangle here, right? A cuboid here. So it's easy to UV edit the cube. See, Blender has automatically UV edited it for me. So what this does is I can I'm gonna come to UV editing in a bit. So I'm gonna show you shading first. So shading is basically done to texture the material object. For example, you want to texture this. So when you open the shading panel, you're gonna see this. These are nodes. These are basically nodes. You can press here Shift A to insert various nodes. So by default, you'll get the principal BSDF node. So, and like for most scenarios, this node is just enough. I'll just show you the different settings. For example, the first one, this is the base color. This is to change the material's color, whatever you want. Like I can put it to blue. Then what subsurface does is, you've probably seen like when you put your finger on a torch or something and then switch the light on, some light actually passes through your skin. So that's subsurface. Like that you can switch on by switching on the subsurface here. Like can you see it gets gradually lighter because light is passing through it. So this is just turn it on and off. Then this is for the metallic, how metallic you want the object to be. So it's either going to be 0 or 1. Nothing is going to be like halfway through the, it's not going to be halfway metallic and halfway non-metallic. It has to be 1 or 0. And the second one is specular. What specular does is it calculates the amount of light that light will bounce through the object. Like I can put a specular at maximum and then maximum light will bounce from it and it is going to look like really glowy and stuff. So you don't want specular to be at its max and you don't want specular to be 0 either. So 0.5 is pretty good. Then the specular tint is basically tinting the glue. Like if I put the specular at maximum, it's going to reflect maximum light. And then if I put the tint here, it's going to tint the reflected light, nothing else. It's not very important either. And then comes roughness. What roughness does is it just calculates how rough is the surface. Like you can see here, it's like a mirror now. if you put the roughness at high, it's going to be very rough. That's that's just it. Then as anisotropic rotation, and then anisotropic sheen tint, clear coat. These are something you're never gonna use. Then you can probably use clear coat here and there, but it's not very useful either. Then what IOR does is IOR is basically the refractive index of the object. If it's a solid object, so there's no point of changing the refractive index here. Then the transmission is basically how much light passes through it. So in Blender, there are two engines. There's EV and then cycles. Workbench is of no use. So EV is for like it's easier to use, and then it's friendly for most of the PCs. Like if you don't have a high-end PC, then EV is just the one you have to use. But if you have a decent PC, then you can use cycles too. So what cycles does is cycles is like a better engine, but it takes time to render. For example, here's a plane. I added a plane by Shift A, then Mesh plane. Here are different things you can add here. So I just added a plane here. And what EV does is it calculates everything perfectly, but it takes time to render. You can probably see the green here. When I switch to EV, like EV does the same thing, but there are going to be some glitches here. You can see that it doesn't calculate everything very nicely. There won't be any shadows on the object because light reflects, right? Light bounces everywhere, right? So there are going to be shadows on the object. There are going to be shadows on the floor, but EV just calculates the shadows that are going to be in the floor. Like it does the bare minimum. So if you're doing something like you have to do something super fast and just the quality doesn't even matter that much, so then you can use EV. But for the most part, cycles is the best engine here. Then there are different nodes. It will take an eternity to explain everything here. So whenever you have something to make, right, or something to design, and you want to specifically shade that, so if you search on YouTube or something, the tutorial will obviously cover the node for that specific job. So that's cycles for you. And then for EV, you have to turn on a lot of stuff. Like you have to turn off ambient occlusion. What ambient occlusion does is, for example, if this is an object, if it's interacting with the plane, then obviously there are going to be shadows here at the edge of the object, right? There are going to be shadows here. There is going to be dirt, and also that's what ambient occlusion does. It calculates that. Then what bloom does is bloom gives like a hazy effect to the stuff that's emitting any light. For example, if I add a sphere here, by the way, if you press X, you can delete. Here's a sphere. Then you right click, shade smooth. It's basically gonna make the object smoother. Then I'm going to add a new material here. You press new, then it uses a new material. So what I'm gonna do is delete the principal BSDF, Shift A, then search emission. So what the emission node does is it emits light. So I can change the color here and the strength of the emission. For example, if I set the emission to 20, it's going to emit light here. So what bloom does is, you can probably see the result. This is what bloom does. And then the depth of field is basically for the camera. Then screen space reflections are for if I have a mirror or a glass, I guess. That like you have a see-through glass, then you need to enable screen space reflections. Then motion blur is motion blur. So this is all for EV, but if you switch to cycles, everything is like default. Everything comes default. You don't have to turn on anything. So this is cycles. Then what else do I need? Yeah. So here, this is the camera. For example, you're far away from a scene, right? You can't see anything. So you want to snap the camera to that object. You select that object, whatever. I am selecting this sphere, And then when you press the period key on your numpad, it is going to snap to that object. So here's the camera here. Then you can press the camera icon here, and it's going to show you the camera view. So in the camera options, there is a focal length, which you can increase and decrease. Then there is the depth of field. So I'm going to select a sphere now. I'm going to render mode, and then when I decrease the f-stop, the depth of field will decrease. So here are some. These are the orientations for the objects in your viewport. This is for global, and this is local. What local does is it gives the local orientation of that object. For example, if it's in global, then everything is going to move according to the global orientation. For example, if I need to move it in the z-axis, it will move in the z-axis. But when I say local, so every orientation is everything is moved according to their own orientation. So if I press Z here, you can see it's the z-axis is different. The z-axis is different for the camera, and then the z-axis for the sphere is different. So that's local. If I bring the camera back and then put the depth of field here. If you want to hide anything, just select and then H, it'll hide it. And I'll put the emissions to 0. The plane here again. G to grab and then Z, and I'm going to take it down a bit. So I'm just going to show you the depth of field, okay? So you can see the plane is out of focus now. When you increase the f-stop, the plane comes into focus. So it's just depth of field. That's how you control the depth of field for a camera. That's like the basic things of Blender you need to know. Yeah, Shift A2, yeah, I already said that. So in shading, there's one more thing you can do. You can come to shading, and then here's a drop-down menu. There's object and then world. In the world settings, what you can do is, this is the background for your world. This is like the virtual world in the 3D software. You can change the color. You can change the strength of the world. And here's one more thing you can do. You can press Shift A and then search environment texture. You connect the color to color. Then this is going to turn pink. And then what you do is you open an HDRI. These are some HDRIs. So what an HDRI does is, HDRI is basically like a 360-degree picture with the lighting data. What I mean is that like in this HDRI, it's basically cloudy, right? The lighting is mostly even. So that's how it's going to react. I'm going to turn to cycles now. This is if you don't have a GPU, then it's going to be CPU only, or if you have a GPU, then GPU compute. So this is how the HDRI works. I can change the HDRI here. So you can see there's the sun, right? So every light is going to come from that side. I'm going to change the material of the sphere. Make it metallic. So you can see that it's reflecting the HDRI. So HDRI is basically like a cheap way to imitate the environment, like without cutting on render cost. So that's it. That's for the world, I guess. You can change the HDRI. So that's the thing. Like that's the basic things you need to know about Blender. But if there's something you specifically want to know, just Google it. Also, here are some modifiers you probably need to know. What modifiers does is it's just it deforms or like generates new stuff. It deforms the mesh. For example, I'm going to use a displace modifier here, and you press new. It creates a new texture, and then you go here. You select the texture. For example, I'm selecting the cloud texture. So you can see that it deforms the mesh. You can play with the size. The less the more grainy it becomes, the more like the uneven the surface becomes. When I increase the size, it's smoother now. You can see, and you can play with more settings here. The strength of the displaced modifier. Then what mid-level does is it changes the offset of the object. Then there's an array modifier. What array does is basically duplicates the stuff. You can increase the count here, and it's going to indefinitely increase the number of objects. Just make a duplicate of the object. You can change the axis it moves. For example, it's on the x-axis. If I make a 0 and then I type here 5, so it's going to duplicate in the y-axis. So that's the array modifier. And then there's the, if you put a plane here, and give it a solidify modifier. What the solidify modifier does is it gives thickness to the object. So and then in edit mode, what you can do is you can subdivide a plane. There can be multiple reasons you want to subdivide a plane. Like the more vertex points it has, the better it is to like model on it. So you probably need to subdivide your meshes mode. So the more you subdivide, but remember that more you subdivide, more it's going to eat into your CPU processing power. So yeah. Then I'm going to show you another modifier. It's called the wireframe modifier. It makes a wire. It creates a wire-like structure along the edges of the mesh. So these are the edges, right? So it gives it keeps the edges, it thickens the edges, and then removes everything else. And change the settings here. So these are the basic things about Blender, and there are multiple add-ons. So it's an open source software, right? So there are multiple add-ons for it. You can go to preferences, add-ons. You can install multiple add-ons from the internet, and then yeah. So that's what's nice about Blender. Like the community is very giving. If you need any help, you can just go to Reddit or YouTube. The community is very helpful. The Blender community specifically. So yeah, the lights. Yeah. So let's talk about the lights, I guess. There are different. You can press Shift A, then light. Here's a point, sun, spotlight, then area light. The point light is basically what it says. So it's just a point. Then there is the spotlight. It creates a spot here. Here's the settings for the lights. And then there's the sunlight, which basically illuminates the entire world. So that's the sunlight. Then there is an area light. Let me turn off the. Okay. So this is basically the area light. These are the lights you're gonna use to light your scenes. So yeah, so that's the basic of Blender. Now let's show you a scene, one of my scenes. Yeah, so this is what I made a while ago. So this is just like a joke. A news came. I don't know if you remember. Like someone attacked on a Zomato worker, I guess, for food or something. So this I made this as a joke. So you can see here these are nothing but planes, like I showed you. Wait. So these are basically planes, which I used an array modifier here to make the walls here. And then this is just a road, and so here I used an area light here. You can see this is the area light to light the entire scene, and then I used area light at the tops. So yeah. So this is what I was saying about compositing. Here you can see that the characters, the zombies basically, are pointing towards the Zomato workers. So that's what I want the audience to look at, these guys. So that's why the walls and the characters, everyone is pointing at the guys that are running away. So that was my point about the composite. So yeah, this is it, I guess, about Blender. And then so yeah, that's like the basis of
at this point, I think we can take in some questions, guys.
yeah.
Anything related to Blender's interface or anything about the lighting, scenes, how to position your cameras and everything, you can ask.
On that, what do you believe is recommended sample count for a render?
Excuse me, I couldn't hear you properly.
What do you believe is the recommended sample count for a render?
What render engine are you talking about?
The same Blender only, in cycles.
No, cycles. For cycles, I would say like depends on what you need. For example, I would say for some a couple of days back, I was just trying to make like a artistic style render. So what I did was I just put the render count to 1. So that's very low. And I just put the render count to 1. Then I turned on the denoising. So what it did was it just gave me an artistic like look. So that was the look I was looking for. But if you want a realistic look, then I'll probably suggest go 500, I guess. Like the more you go, it's better, right? But like there's time to take into account. So I would say I personally, this is the max I go. 256 is the max I go. And I turn on denoising. So yeah, I would suggest just go 256, I guess. But if you have a better PC, then yeah, go as far as you want. So any questions? Any more questions?
Guys, you can feel free to ask anything again if you want a part to be repeated.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, like I said, guys, we're just having a conversation here. Nothing serious.
Yeah, Pratham, yeah, please.
Yeah, animated, like, I mean, as in, like, adding animation to it or like automation of movement. Is that
Okay.
like an advanced level, or does that come to basics as well?
Wait, what?
Like adding movements to the object, like automating movements.
Yes.
Is it like a basic level thing, or like should we as beginners wait for?
Yeah. No. You can learn it like, yeah, you can probably see my screen. For example, if you're gonna do some basic movements, right? So this is a cube here, and when you come here, this orange box. So these are the transform options for you. Like I can change the object's location in the X, then Y, then Z axis. So what you can do is use keyframes here. So basically in the first frame, this is the timeline. So in the first frame, I'm going to put a keyframe here on the location X. Then I'm going to go to 150 frames. So basically it's going on 30 frames per second, right? So this is 30 frames. So this is basically 1 second. Then when you go to 150 frames, so this is basically 5 seconds. So in 5 seconds, if I put the location at, for example, -10 meter, then put a keyframe there too. So this is going to animate the box. That's like the basic animation. That's like the basic
Okay.
animation you can do. But if you want to do like human, are you talking about like human animations, like movements and stuff?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, that yeah, that you can do too. Like, for example, I use this. There's this website called Mixamo by Adobe. That's what I use because animation is hard. Like, it's very hard to do. Like, by freehand, it's certainly difficult. But like some people use suits, they are mocap suits. It basically tracks their movement. They can wear it and then do whatever movement they want, and the computer is going to track their movement and then make it an animation. So it's more easier that way, but no, not everybody can afford that. So freehand animation is tough. If you try, you can learn it, but it's tough. So what I do is I use this software called Mixamo. It's from Adobe. So here are different characters you can download here. The list is limited, but there are enough characters to choose from. For example, I choose this character, and then I can just wait. Yeah. So this is the character, right? So I can go to animations, and then, for example, I want to get a walking animation. So you just search walk. There are different walking animations, right? So I'll just select this one, it will walk. So there are these settings that you can play with. This is the overdrive. Overdrive is basically how fast or slow you want the animation to play out. If I put it to 100, then it's going to go very fast. And if I put it to 0, then it's going to be very slow. So the default is just fine, 50. Then character arm space, it's basically like there are different characters, right? But the animation is for just one character. So when you put different characters, there might be some issues. Here there are no issues, but sometimes there are some issues. So you can use the character arm space to increase or decrease the space between their arms. So this is basically what it does. So the default is fine here too. So trim is basically the total frames you want. So we want the whole thing, so we are not going to play with that. Now mirror basically inverts the entire thing. So the right becomes left, left becomes right. So we don't need that either. And in place, what in place does is that he just walks in one place. So this is helpful when you are adding multiple animations one over another. This is when it's helpful. So what I'm going to show you how to import this into Blender. How do you get this into Blender? So you just press in place and then you press download. You leave everything in default, then you download it. So it's going to come be exported as in .fbx file, which is importable in Blender. So my download is complete, and then I can come into Blender, file, then import, Then here's the FBX. Locate the file and then import. So here's the character. And then you can see he's walking. What you can do if you want to stretch the animation, then you can just come here and then select all. To select all, by the way, you have to press A, just A, then Shift D to duplicate, then just put it here. It's going to stretch it. Do it as many times as you want. Now you want the guy to go moving forward, right? So what you can do is just Shift A, then empty, then plain access. What are empties for? Empties are basically something that doesn't render. When you press render, it won't show up in the render, but it can manipulate the objects in your scene. For example, this is the armature. This is what we call the armature. It is controlling the human. So come here, then just so that we can see it better. Display as stick, then in front. So I can see it better. This is the armature. So armature is controlling the subject, right? So what I'm going to do is select the armature and then shift, then hold. I'm holding shift, then selecting the empty, then I'm pressing Control P. So through Control P, you can parent something to it. Like for example, I'm saying object keep transform. So what it did was I can now control the armature is controlling the human, and then the empty is controlling the armature. For example, when I move, I press G and then move. When I move the empty right, so the armature moves, and in place the human moves too. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to animate the empty. So in first frame, I'm just gonna put a keyframe here on y-axis and then move a couple of frames forward. For example, if I press the armature, then the keyframes come till 225. So here in 225, I'm just gonna move the character forward till here. Now you have to eyeball this, like you have to guess it, everything. So this is what I did. This is how you like easily animate stuff in Blender. Like I didn't do anything. It was just a minute or 2 minutes of work, and it's that easy. Now the characters from Mixamo come shaded automatically. You can check. He's already shaded, but you can see like he's very reflective, and human skin isn't that reflective. So what you can do is just decrease the roughness. This is for the hair. You can decrease the, you can increase the roughness, and this is for his face. So these are basically textures, right? So these textures are basically pictures. So when I press for this, you need to go to edit preferences, then search for an add-on called Node Wrangler, then just turn it on, then close the window. So what I can do is just I have selected the texture, then I've pressed, I've hold Control Shift, then left click. Now it's directly going to show me the texture. So this is the texture of the face of the human, right? So I was talking about UV editing, right? So I'm gonna come to UV editing right now. So in UV editing, you can see that it basically, this is a 3D object, right? So what UV editing does is it just cuts the 3D model into a 2D, so that we into a 2D surface. Like for example, you can see the face here. So it's basically laid out in 2D. And so the textures are already there. This is the texture. This is the texture of the face. You can see. So this is the, I've selected a face here, right? So if I move this face, you can see the textures for that cube is changing too. You can see that, right? So that's what UV editing is about. So here what I'm going to do is Control Shift left click again, And since you can see that the reflections are too much, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play with the texture for the roughness. There's a texture that is plugged into the roughness. So what I'm going to do is Shift A, search for ramp. This is the color ramp. So the color ramp basically does is it just controls the amount of like black and white. For example, if I click here, Control Shift left click, you can see it's nothing just black and white. So black and white is basically like black is zero roughness and then white is 100% roughness. So what I'm going to do now is just play with the black and white. So if I crank up the black here, you can see that it gets really reflective. When I crank up the white, the roughness increases. You can see that now the roughness looks pretty good, like better than before. We can do the same with the collar. This is a human model, right? So you don't want the metallic to be there. So I just turned it off, put it to 0. So that's how you import a model from Mixamo to Blender. So yeah, that's it. Any more questions? Guys, hello.
No, nothing from my side.
Okay. So I guess that's just Blender. So like I said, if you have anything specifically, you can just go Google or search it on YouTube. And if you want to ask me anything, then you can just search me on Instagram. I'm there on Instagram if you need any help or anything.
Yeah,
Just
guys, we'll be
text me.
sharing all the social links in the WhatsApp after the meet. Also, if you have any doubts regarding Blender, ask it right now. Otherwise, we'll move into the next section where we'll tell you how to implement this in the real scenes in the editing software.
So no questions, right? Okay. So like a day before yesterday, I shot some scenes. I'm going to show you. So I shot some scenes and then I made like I showed you the HDRI, right? So I made an HDRI of my own. Like it isn't emitting light or anything, but it's just a 360-degree image of the video I recorded. Here's the video. So I recorded this video. Then what I did was I got into Blender. And then there's motion tracking. You can do motion tracking in Blender. So what I did was so in Blender, I just tracked the scene. You basically put trackers here. You can put different trackers. You basically put trackers on stuff that is contrasting. So for example, this white dot, there's a lot of gray area here, and then there's a white dot. So it's like it's popping out. So you can just put a tracker here. You press Control and then left click. You put a tracker there, and then you put a tracker here, and then you press this button, and then it tracks. So you put multiple trackers like this, and then you solve for the camera motion. So Blender makes a rough calculation, and then it gives you the movement. It calculates the movement of the camera. So when you get a solve error when the solve error is below 1 pixel. So it's ideal that the solve error should be below 1 pixel. So I got a solve error of 0.19. Needless to say, it's very good. So I solved. Then what I did was, so here in my 3D scene, you can see the camera, and then you can see that the camera is moving exactly like my real world camera was moving. So then I added a car model here. It's this car model I downloaded. So and then I rendered it out. So what I did was, in my shot, you can see that there isn't much movement, right? So it's just vibrating a lot, but there isn't much movement. So that's pretty good for me that I don't have to render a lot of stuff. I just rendered one frame of the car, and what I did was, I rendered this frame of the car. I just rendered this one, and then I got into After Effects. And then wait.
This one just looks like the Batmobile, you know?
It's
Yeah.
okay. So what I did was I imported the scene in After Effects, and then here in After Effects too, I just tracked the camera. Yeah, here in the right panel you can see tracker, and then track camera. You can track the entire thing, and then after you track the scene, you're going to after you track the scene, you're going to get a 3D camera like this. It's automatically going to come here, and then I put a rendered card here over the actual footage. But as you can see, it looks good enough, but it doesn't look that good. So what I did was, I did some editing here. I I did some color grading over here, and then you can see that the front part of the car was too bright, and here you can see there is shadows here, so it shouldn't be that bright, right? So it should be dark. So I darkened it up, and I did some color grading, and then I put just a regular camera blur, like a camera lens blur. So this is what I got. So this is what you can do with Blender. There's stuff like, I'm still learning VFX for Blender, so this is like, I'm still an amateur. So I'm just so this is like the beginning of, this is like the start. You can create like multiple stuff with it. I'm going to
I mean,
leave it.
mainly, yeah, I think what Maharshi is trying to say, and everyone's a learner in this. When you just,
Yeah. So
you can't just be perfect in it because there is no limit to that.
so there's this guy I usually follow. Uh, there's this guy called Ian Hubert. You can check his videos. Like, he's just a guy with a computer, and he made like a full-on 3D series with his girlfriend. This is completely made in Blender. You can see here. This is his girlfriend, by the way. Both of them just made a movie at home, basically. So everything here is 3D. Everything is made in Blender. So like, there are unlimited possibilities with Blender. So
And the sequences in which they are present, that was all done using green screen.
yeah. Wait, I'm going to show you the making too. This is basically the making. You can see she's changing her clothes right in front of the green screen, and she is right here now.
So they what they did was basically they took two separate cuts and they mashed them, put them together. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Everything you see here is like it's not real. Everything here is 3D generated. So that's what makes it awesome. Nothing here is real except the characters. Nothing is real, but everything looks so real.
Oh yeah, I have seen this. It was like it got viral on Instagram for like
Yeah.
creative.
Hmm.
So
First,
uh,
I thought this was fake or something, but no.
Like if you look at any movie like Beat Avengers also, like the visuals are great, but to be honest, I feel it's very boring for the actors to work on green screen.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, of
but
course.
then finally when they see it on the movie, they're like, okay, how did this happen?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like that's why, yeah, that's what Nolan believes. Like he doesn't believe in green screens, right? He just blew a full ass airplane in his last movie, so he
Yeah,
doesn't
he
believe in
always
VFX.
incorporates, a real bomb blast and all.
Yeah, so
But I just wish that he doesn't do it this time. I mean, he's making a movie on Oppenheimer this time.
so yeah, that's it. I can give you some recommendations if you want. There's Ian Hubert, and if you're getting into Blender for the first time, then you can say this. You can search for Blender Guru donut tutorial. This is like a ritual for the Blender users. You can there's a it's
Oh
like
yeah,
a
I've seen this.
yeah, yeah, it's like a tutorial series. If you complete like I can promise you, if you complete the entire series, you'll be like you will get a very good grasp of how Blender works. Like he covers everything. So if you want to learn Blender, then you can follow him, Blender Guru. And
Guys,
there's
it's like a crash course.
yeah, yeah. uh, then there's one called Default Cube. He's good too. His Blender tutorials are good too. So I'd suggest like Default Cube, then Blender Guru, then Ian Hubert. If you're into like VFX and stuff. So yeah, that's it from my part, I guess. I just wanted to share what I knew, which isn't much, but uh, yeah, I did what I could.
So
Okay.
Maharishi, it was really interesting to know all this
Uh,
from your side.
yeah, just
Yeah.
one second, Aditya. Yeah, final thoughts. Before that, guys, any more questions, doubts, queries, anything before we move on to the quiz
I have
section?
I have
Yeah.
no doubt, but I just like browsed through my this thing, what do you call that, Instagram,
Mhm.
and like there's this video he has uploaded, like the second last video, like second most recent, something like a robot but without like the head part.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know what you,
Wait,
yeah. So
I can
I don't know what you
show it to you.
I don't know
Yeah, yeah,
what
I
you
can
call
show it.
it,
Huh?
but like that looks pretty good, like the concept.
Okay, wait, I'm gonna show it to you. I have to search for the project file. Wait.
How huge do these project files come out to be, like on an average, the file size of the project?
Uh, I have no idea. I'm going to check. Wait. Not really. Like this is a 60 MB file. Like the blend files are not very big, but the assets you use, right? So they get pretty big. Those can be pretty big. Wait, what is the project file? Here is it. You're talking about this one, right?
Yeah, so like, did you make everything in this from the scratch, or like in this also there was something imported and some was?
Yeah, yeah. For example, these were Mixamo models. Wait. These were my Mixamo models. The animation is from Mixamo. Then I modeled everything else. The character here, the body and everything, I have downloaded from somewhere, I forgot. But the face and everything, I modeled it. I modeled this part. So and yeah, so I downloaded the female character too. I guess I downloaded the female character too. That's right. So this is a good example of how I used After Effects to compose this shot. Like, is in the video, right? In the video, the guy basically what happens in video, the guy there is no guy in the first room, right? So it's just the bot. So what I did was I rendered the bot first. I rendered the bot first till this point, I guess. I rendered the bot first, and then I put then what I did, I rendered the human here. From this point, I rendered the human. Then I used After Effects to just put it as a sticker, I guess. I put a mask around here, and then I put the shot from the man, shot of the man over the shot of the bot. So yeah, like you can use Blender and After Effects that way. So till here it continues, and then it stops here. Around here, I just stopped the render for the human, and then I put the bot again. So it just stops here, and then the entire video loops again. So yeah, that's it. Like to make something like this, it's not very hard. Like once you get the idea of Blender, right? So everything else is easy, because what's hard here is the animation, which I have downloaded from Mixamo. So that part's gone. Then the modeling, which is also from Mixamo or either from anywhere from the internet. Like what I believe is, if someone has already done the job for you, if someone has already modeled the human or whatever, then why do the extra work? Just focus on your creativity, I guess. So yeah, that's it. Any more questions? Anything?
Guys, I hope there's also no doubts regarding the cinematography part too. How to structure your scenes. If you do have any doubts regarding that, also you may ask us.
Oh yeah, regarding the like just like I don't know if I should be talking about this in this workshop. So like uh I am myself working on cinematic scores now, like making music for that cinematic music, like or that orchestral music. And since you guys work on these blenders and stuff, I was just hoping that maybe you know together we could make something like a nice mini, like 8 or 10 minutes kind of project.
Definitely, definitely, ma'am. We'd be happy to collab. Okay, so I guess there are no more questions, guys. Can we just get a quick feedback if you understood that everything, whatever we talked about here, and you liked it? So,
In the chat section, give us a score out of 10 from your side.
I mean, if you can't see the chat even, you can just unmute and say, out of 10, how did you like the workshop, and
Yeah,
how
guys.
much would you
Yeah,
like to see more of us learn?
basically rate me.
And where we could improve. whether you found it interesting or
You can
boring.
freely unmute, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Pratham. By the way, guys, if you want anything, any help with Blender or whatever, or if you just want to have a conversation, you can ping me on Instagram.
His account name is a bit weird, guys. So it's Y1.
Yeah,
We send the account details, but
it's basically Inson from Iron Man, but it's one instead of I. Like why I'm saying this, because when I started Blender, right, so there was this guy I met on Reddit and he was super helpful. Like he helped me with everything, so I'm really grateful to him. So I just want to be that guy for anybody who wants that help.
Yeah, guys, and yes, Pratham, we'll definitely do more workshops like this and some particular ones on request. So, like, if there's enough interest, we'll obviously do a particular Blender course for 2 3
yeah,
days.
if we have enough people for it, we can form even a community. Like,
Yeah, if for the creativers guys, it's not just limited to these 5 days and what we are doing here. This is something much bigger, so you can see more of this later on. We'll still keep doing it, and this is just a short take on what we'll do, so that you get a general idea of everything, and obviously we'll expand it more and then give you guys more workshops and competitions. So.
so should we move on with the quiz?
Any more doubts, guys?
Everyone's been
Final.
waiting for that.
Yeah. Come on, guys. At least unmute and say how did you like this?
Yeah, guys. Come on, be interactive with us.
Yeah,
Uh,
hello.
I don't feedback on.
yeah, Jeff
Uh,
Paul here.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the time being, it was actually nice. I mean, in this short period of time, I mean, I think it took some 45 minutes maybe, like 30 to 45 minutes. Actually, I just joined late, so yeah, it was, interesting to see like how things work, behind the scenes, with that green screen and all. Yeah, yeah, I mean, I found it amazing, cool.
Yeah.
And with the time being, I think this was really, helpful. It's awesome. Yeah, it's cool.
Thanks for
Thank you.
back.
Thank
Yes.
you.
And
Yeah.
yeah, some 10 on 10s in the chat. And
Thank you, Yuvraj. Thank you, Vaishnavi.
I guess
Hello.
it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
please.
sure.
Excuse me.
Yeah, please, Shitesh, go on.
Uh, I had a question that why only green screens are used while shooting
Yeah,
Uh,
Yeah,
why
I had
only
the
green
same
color
Blue
question.
on the
screens
screen?
are also used. I mean,
yeah. Green
Yeah,
screens are.
green and blue.
Yeah, yeah. So because they're easier to cut. Like
see,
in
yeah,
the like for example, you can use the red screen too, I guess, right? You're thinking like why not red? Because
Yes.
red hinders into the shot too much. Like for example, green does that too. So when you cut something like in After Effects, if you key something out, what happens is in the edge of the character, through the edge of the character, there are some green lights bleeding. So as a VFX artist, I have to do extra work to not to show that. So what nowadays you can probably see the behind the scenes they use blue screens, right? So what blue does is blue reflects less light, so the screens are basically better quality, so it reflects less light, and there's we call it edge bleeding, so there's less edge bleeding there. So blue is most preferred, green is not that good, and the rest of the colors are, well, forget about them.
it's. I guess you have heard about it in the physics classes also. It's all about the spreading and the wavelengths, and also how we like basically primary colors are the best, you can say, and under the primary colors, the ones with less bleeding, and more stretch are the colors you'd like to go with.
Yeah. So also green and blue are like the farthest away colors from your skin tone. If you use a red one, your skin is already red, so there can be problems there. So blue and green are mostly preferred.
Yeah, actually, that makes sense now.
Mm.
Okay,
So
guys, I hope I don't think anyone else has any questions. So we are gonna move on to the quiz section. I hope everyone is
By
excited.
the quiz master Adi.
Everyone excited, guys?
Come on, guys, give me a thumbs up.
आज
okay.
मेरे को पैसा मिलेगा ना?
हाँ भैया, अगर if you score well, then of course.
अरे विनर
Yes,
को
yes.
अरे इतना देर बैठा है पैसे तो मिलेंगे.
Okay.
Even Maharshi, you can also join the quiz, but if you win, you will not get the prize. So,
Yeah, so नहीं तो तब तो join नहीं करना. Uh, by the way, guys, I actually have to go now. Thank you all for
yeah.
joining.
If I may request, guys, everyone, can you please turn on your cameras once? Aditya, can you just stop screen sharing for once, and everyone, please turn on your cameras.
Shrish, your mic is off.
Okay, okay, sorry, my bad. Yeah, I'm just saying, chill session, guys. Come on,
Hmm.
turn on the cameras. Feel free. Maharishi, man, you are the mentor
Wait,
today.
I have to. I don't have a webcam. I told you.
Oh yeah, I totally
Okay.
forgot
I'm
about
on my
that.
PC, right? So
Yeah,
no
yeah.
webcam, guys. Sorry.
Others, guys,
You guys
everyone.
just have to look at the cat.
Yeah, he has a long history with cats. So,
Yeah.
Uh,
where are the others?
Debanshi,
शर्माओ नहीं, शर्माओ
Yuvraj.
नहीं. अभी शादी को बहुत टाइम है, मुंह दिखाई बात नहीं होगी. अभी
हाँ.
ऑन कर लो, टाइम पास है.
मुंह दिखाई के लिए पैसा भी मिलता है यार.
भाई पैसे मिल रहे हैं ना भाई अभी.
या जीत जाओगे तो जरूर मिलेगा पैसा अभी क्विज
बिल्कुल
में.
मिलेगा भाई.
Okay, let's take a few screenshots and we'll let Maharishi leave, I guess.
yeah,
This
I'm gonna leave you guys. Best of luck on the quiz, and thank you all for joining.
Thank you,
It was
Maharishi.
fun. You guys were a really good audience, and thank
uh,
you. Bye bye. Good night.
a very well session taken by Maharishi, and thank you guys for turning on the cameras. You can keep the cameras on if you wish to, otherwise you can turn it off for latency so that you can see the quiz screen better.
Have you taken a screenshot now? I mean, you have.
Obviously, I have to have this.
So,
Uh,
guys, shall I present the screen now?
yes, please. So get ready, guys.
3983996. This is the game pin. I hope everyone
Yeah,
is aware of how to play this. I,
exactly. If
yeah,
you are not aware with Kahoot, we also did yesterday and we'll do it in the next 3 days also. You just need to go to kahoot.it and enter the game pin and a recognizable username, which doesn't, uh, preferably your name, but yeah, if a recognizable username is there for yourself, you can use that.
oh, Jethalal, nice. 100T Joginder. Nice. Shrish, how many total participants are there?
In the meet, there should be 11 joining.
Okay. 10 have joined. Okay. Is that all, Shirish? 11, 12 people.
In the attendee list, there's 11, so I guess I
12
don't know.
people have joined.
Yeah, I'm using Pelican. I'm definitely sure it's Kshitij. उसका हमेशा glitch करता है Kahoot.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, I guess everyone in the meet has joined.
Okay. So shall I start?
Guys, just give us a thumbs up if you are good to go. I guess we are.
Chalo, cool. I'll start now. Who directed Life of Pi? I mean, I'm starting with a very basic question. Oh, five. I was expecting this answer. I mean, I was expecting more people to answer James Cameron. Well, it was directed by Ang Lee, and many people confuse it with James Cameron because he also directed Titanic. So, there is that confusion which exists. Okay,
If it makes you feel any better, when I was testing this quiz, I also marked James Cameron. So
George Lucas formed what company to do the visual effects for Star Wars?
अच्छा, I want to know कौन कौन यहाँ पे Star Wars नहीं देखा है.
I've seen like Empire Strikes Back only. Yeah. उसके
I
अलावा
am I am one person who hasn't
I was
watched
again
Star
expecting
Wars.
many people to answer DreamWorks only. See,
Yeah.
guys, DreamWorks is a production house. It's not a visual effects company. It's a production house, and to do the visual effects, Industrial Light and Magic was formed, not DreamWorks. I was expecting many people to be get confused in this one. Nice, nice. Let's see. Demoda is in the third, and we
Devanshi and Norsan keeping their first and second positions
on
respectively.
Devanshi. In the Matrix, does Neo take the blue pill or the red pill? If you have seen the Matrix, this is a very easy question. Come on, guys.
Now don't
I-
confuse this. Don't
yeah,
confuse this with Squid Games. The cards in the Squid Games now.
yeah.
That's
And
also a popular thing going on.
for the blue option, I have marked red also. Oh wow, 6 and 6.
यार आई गॉट कलर कंफ्यूज मैंने रेड देखा रेड दबा दिया लेकिन इट्स
वही
ब्लू.
वही मैंने जानबूझ के ही वही किया था कि मैं चाहता था कि लोग ऐसे कंफ्यूज हों इस चीज को लेकर. Wow, wow, wow. Let's see. Devanshi is maintaining the first position. Nice, nice. Jethalal is on the second. Demoda is on the second. I mean, Kshitij is on the fourth, and 100. This Joginder guy is on the fifth place. Let's move on. What's the name of the production house that made the 2011 film Ravan? I'll give you a hint. That production house is owned by Shah Rukh Khan himself.
I mean, this one is an easy one. This production house is doing a lot of good VFX these days,
Yep.
and
यार
also,
you shouldn't have shown the poster of the movie. आंसर तो पोस्टर पे ही था.
अच्छा oh चलो कोई नहीं.
I mean, it's still obvious a bit because Red Chilli's VFX is doing great these days. Even in the movie Zero,
Yeah.
they've done world-class VFX.
Now let's see. Oh, Devanshi is maintaining her first position. And Kshitij is on the third, and Demoda is on the second position. Come on, guys. Who directed Avatar? Answer carefully, guys.
I'll give a nice hint after the question is done. Like there's a good relatability over here in the options.
Mm-hmm. James Cameron is the answer.
Yeah, guys, the characters are blue and the option is blue. I don't know. That was very relatability. Relatable.
Okay. Now let's see who's on the podium. Oh, Demo is in the first place.
Devanshi,
And
I think, answered this question wrong, fallen off to fifth.
nobody,
Kshitij
guys.
rising up
It's
high. Who's
only
that?
five questions till now. I mean, not even five. Yeah,
Yeah,
five.
we still have a long way to go. Come on.
Yeah. Backdraft was the first film to use photorealistic computer-generated fire. True or false?
So simple two option choice, 50-50. But uh, if you know your
Repeat the
CGI,
question. Repeat the question.
yeah, it's Backdraft was the first film to use photorealistic computer generated fire. True
भाई
or
इसमें मैं
false?
गूगल नहीं कर पाएगा.
गूगल भी नहीं कर रहे हैं यार, हम सुने ही नहीं.
अच्छा बोले कि लिखा है भाई.
Aditya, you guys can see the questions and answer on your screen, right? Or is
Guys,
it
everything
disabled?
is visible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's very.
Okay, I mean, in which film was bounce lighting first applied? It's a very classic film, by the way. Aparijito is the answer. Many guys thought Wizard of Oz is the one. See, Wizard of Oz was the first film to be shown in color, while bounce lighting, the method of bounce lighting was invented in the Aparijito movie by I can't remember the cinematographer name, but Satyajit Ray claims in his book that it was first invented by them. And Aparijito is the second film in his Pathar in his trilogy. You know.
And guys, if you don't know what bounce lighting is, it is the literally bouncing of light. It's you have seen the Planck thing where they bounce lights off different surfaces, plane surfaces. That's
Yeah.
called bounce lighting. This gets a even lighting on the scenes. So,
They use a cloth. They use a different type of cloth, for that. Yeah. Now let's see. Jogender and Kshitij is maintaining his third place. Good. Come on, guys. What is the name of Thor's hammer? I'm expecting everyone to answer this one correctly.
after this question is over, I have a question. Is
Sure.
is the answer the Thor's hammer? Is it CGI or is it a real prop?
It is a real prop.
It's a CGI.
I mean, I have seen not exactly it, but I have seen replicas of it.
The whole thing is initially it was not a prop. It was initially a CGI element. Not exactly. It was actually like a element, or like he held it in his hand, but the whole structure of it was not properly in the prop. It was made in post prod, and later on they actually replicated that in real life and made the prop.
I just saw that on making of Avengers.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
भाई मार्वल लोग के पास बहुत पैसा है, बोला काहे हम लोग सस्ता कर रहे हैं, डाल दो पोस्ट प्रोडक्शन में पैसा.
Which movie has won the Best Animation Award at the 88th Academy Awards 2017? Kubo and the Two Strings, The Red Turtle, Zootopia, or the Moana? Moana. Sorry.
This is guys 2017 Academy Awards. You can also relate this with Oscars if you know. So,
Six people have answered Moana. By the way, it is a really good film, and two people have answered Zootopia. Now let's see. Oh, Jethalal is in the first place.
swapping first and second. Guys, you still have a
You
lot
have
of
a shot,
questions to
actually.
come back.
Yeah, you
So
can
you can
you
still
can
come
easily
back,
make a
guys.
comeback, guys. And the movie is Zootopia. Now let's move on to the next question. Polar Express was IMAX's first full-length animated 3D feature film. True or false?
Polar Express, if you have not watched it, I highly recommend you to watch this movie.
It's a
It's
beautiful film.
yeah, it's the cinematography and the scenes are beautiful. Yes,
True.
it was true. So Polar Express was the first film to release as a 3D feature film the first animated 3D feature film in IMAX. So
Yeah.
Jethalal in first, Demo Music and Joginder coming to third. Nice.
मेरे को true or false option ही नहीं आया. My phone
Who
glitched.
was shown as an amputee with the use of special effects in Forrest Gump? If you haven't seen Forrest Gump, by the way, guys, I highly, highly recommend it to you. It's an amazing film. And it is Lieutenant Dan. It's not Forrest Gump.
So, so yes, guys. In this one, you can see how CGI is also effective in subtle things like just the special ability you can show using special effects. You don't need whole makeup and setting in that.
So I'll just move on now. Oh, Dimoda is again in the first place. Cool, cool, cool. Which film won the Oscar for the Best Animated Feature Film at the 93rd Academy Awards on April 25th, 2021?
So this is this year, guys. In this one, which animated film won the Oscar, and all of the nominations. There are 5 nominations. All of them are great movies. So
Yes, and the answer is Soul. Oh, only yours is on a streak now. Nice. Come on, guys. Only a few questions left now. Fight for it. You can fight back.
yes,
Which of
Soul
these
was
characters is created using motion tracking technology and CGI in the MCU? Come on, guys. This is a very, very easy question.
Marvel, guys. I hope
Marvel, guys. Come on, come on. This is a very,
P-
very easy
even
question.
even the DC guys know this. Come on.
Yeah. Okay.
Indeed.
Who marked Captain America?
Whoever
Why?
did, I was expecting more people to mark Drax. And Drax is actually Bautista is actually put through 2 hours to 4 hours of process for the makeup now for this. So,
Timoda is again in the lead, and we have one last question remaining, and Debanshi has made a comeback. Amazing. Nice. Come on, guys. The one last question is left. Choose wisely. What was India's first 3D movie also translated in Hindi and released as Chota Chota Chetan? I am expecting many people to, falter in this one. Oh, no, that was unexpected. I was expecting many people to mark Shatranj ke Khiladi or Bhoot Uncle. Well, many people did mark Bhoot Uncle. So, well, it's a Malayalam film. It's called My Dear Kutti Chathan. It was released in 1993, I think. So, yeah, it was something like that. Now, let's check the podium. In the third place, Devyani. In the second place, Jethalal. Nice. Jethalal Gada. First place, Dimoda.
25 मिनट में पैसा डबल.
कल का बदला, कल का बदला.
कल का
Nice.
बदला ले रहा
You
हूँ
must pose the iconic pose of Akshay Kumar.
Yeah.
सारे क्विज में मैं लेगा फर्स्ट प्लेस. मेरे साथ नाइंसाफी हुआ है फर्स्ट क्विज में.
Yes, guys. Let's see what the toughest question was, Aditya.
Yeah, sure. Toughest question was which film won the best animation award at the 88th
Yeah,
Academy?
the 2017 one. It was actually in the news quite a bit. That's why we put it there. So, okay. Ishanu's not doing well today. Yesterday, बहुत ज़्यादा ही lead में थे.
देखे तो एक बार इनकी prediction क्या है? Ishanush
Okay.
bhaiya, what's your name? Not Sanna, I think so.
No, it's in Ishanu's only. Seymour दबा.
Yeah.
अरे भाई ईशानु से भी बिजी है. नेक्स्ट मार्वल मूवी का
Exactly. He's
डोंट
the VFX guy for next Marvel, sir.
क्रिस्टोफर नोलन के साथ बातचीत हो रहा है उसका व्हाट्सएप पे.
Okay, guys. Very well played. GG's to Dimoda. And who was Jethalal?
Who is Jethalal?
Claim your prize. Okay, it was Swayam. Congratulations, Swayam. Swayam, are you from first year?
Yes, I'm from first year.
Okay, great.
Great, cool, bro.
So yes, guys, congratulations to you guys. I hope it was a fun quiz and you also learned something in the process and also from the whole workshop. Our mentor, other mentor, Maharishi is not here. He had to go, but we are still here. If you have any more things to say, you may before we close.
Guys, how did you like the whole session? I mean, did you enjoy it or was it boringness? And tell me about my segment. How was it?
Our special quiz master Adi.
मैं तो जीत गया. It was very good. देखो.
Nice. Guys, come on, mic on कर लो, camera on कर लो.
बोल लो
It's
भाई,
free now.
ये
It's
बात
free now.
रिकॉर्ड हो रहा है, ऐसा कोई नहीं. क्षितिज आज ऑलमोस्ट टॉप 3 में आ ही गया था भाई. क्षितिज.
Yeah, there was a lot of
Last
bounce. There was a
Yeah.
lot of bouncing back, and many people were close on this.
Yeah, it was a tough competition.
थर्ड से सीधे 7th पोजीशन पे हम अटके हैं. That's so sad.
कोई नहीं. अभी there
कोई
are
नहीं.
three more days and 3 more quizzes left. So
Acting का कब है?
acting का इस वाले में नहीं है. We are not doing this in the 5-day. Acting हम लोग अलग से we already did one beforehand. उसमें शायद तुम थे ना?
हाँ.
Acting में
मैं वही.
we'll also do others. So yes,
Yeah.
guys. आज का workshop is done. I hope you all liked it, and also tomorrow we'll be doing photography and graphic design from crew and D-Designo. There are Ishanujda and Abhishek will be your mentors for tomorrow. And obviously the same way the links will be sent out, and also for today the socials will be sent out in the group itself. You can follow us, the clubs and the mentors on Instagram and all the socials. So thank you so much, and yeah.